Welcome to this episode of our program Daily Debate. I am Mohamed sitting here on behalf of my colleague Ahmed Nader. And today we'll be focusing on the first industrial conference that was held under the auspices of President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi and would be convened for 3 days, the 29th till the 31st of October. President Sisi has already witnessed via video conference the launch of 64 projects under the National Initiative for Industrial Development, IBDA, or START initiative. The initiative succeeded in legalizing the status of more than 1,500 factories, helping them to create integration with research and training academies to contribute to the training of youth and promote job opportunities. IBDA is a great initiative that goes in parallel with the biggest presidential initiatives, Hayat Karima, all for in favor of the small and entrepreneurs and startups, helping them to make their own projects and to start it with the aim of constructing some of the industrial sectors, particularly some of the components that we really need, all that with the aim of trying to support the industrial sector in Egypt. Definitely this important conference was held for that aim. And there has been some directives by the president to support this sector in many ways and facilitate all procedures that would enable them to start their work at once. We'll be speaking about that in our episode tonight. Before we delve into our discussion, let me first take the first top story of the day. And President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi made a phone call on Sunday with Iraq's Prime Minister Mohamed al-Sudani. Presidential spokesman Ambassador Azzam said that the president congratulated the Iraqi premier for his success in gaining confidence of the Iraqi parliament and the formation of a new government. The president expressed Egypt's firm support for the security and stability of Iraq and hailed the close and historical ties that unite both countries. President Sisi also expressed his keenness to develop frameworks of bilateral cooperation between the two countries to broader spectrums. On his spot, the Iraqi premier expressed his gratitude for President Sisi, praising the depth and strength of the strategic Egyptian-Iraqi relations. Sudani also stressed the two countries' mutual interest in enhancing joint bilateral cooperation frameworks in various fields and appreciation for Egypt's efforts in supporting the Iraqi issues at all levels and forums, as well as the vital Egyptian role in strengthening the mechanisms of joint Arab action in facing the current crises and challenges in the region. And moving on to our next top story of the day, and on Sunday, the President also met with Prime Minister Dr. Mustafa Madbouli and Minister of Electricity and Renewable Energy, Dr. Mohamed Shakir. Presidential spokesman Ambassador Azzam said that the meeting dealt with following up on the projects of the Ministry of Electricity, especially in the new and renewable energy sectors, as well as electrical interconnection with neighboring countries. Minister Shakir reviewed the national projects in the electricity generation sector from new and renewable energy, especially those that depend on wind and solar energy, in cooperation with partners, or rather international partners, and foreign expertise within the framework of Egypt's strategy for integrated and sustainable energy, which aims to reach 42% of renewable energy from the renewable energy. In this context, President Sisi directed the expansion of efforts to manufacture components of the production of new and renewable energy, especially wind wind and solar panels. This expansion is to diversify the sources of energy supply on which the development process in the country depends in the integration with the comprehensive modernization that took place in the national electricity grid system. Moving on with our discussion, and before we delve into our discussion into the topic of tonight, let's watch this report. And President Sisi directs government to grant golden license to all investors. Application for 3 months. Let's watch.
President Abdel Fattah Sisi directed the government to grant a golden license to all the investors applicants for the 3 months to facilitate procedures for establishing priority projects for the state. The President's directives came during the inauguration of the first International Forum and Exhibition for Industry, which is set to take place over 3 days at El Manara International Conference Center. The so-called golden license will grant investors approval to buy or rent lands and operate and manage projects without the need to gain approval from multiple governmental bodies. The licensing window can be extended for an additional 3 months. Also on Saturday, President Sisi inaugurated a number of projects from the National Initiative for Industrial Development, or START Initiative IBDAA. The president said that the government is ready to partner with investors in the initiative, saying that Egypt wants to encourage manufacturing investors and bring them reassurances that the country supports them. The president added that the government is ready to get into partnership with the START initiative, with shares ranging between 30 to 50% or much more, to reassure the industry men in Egypt that the country bears some of the risks. The START initiative principally aims to manufacture products and production inputs that the Egyptian market needs that were previously imported. Lists of these products are available at the Ministries of Industry, Finance, and the Central Bank of Egypt. The President stressed on the importance of exploring the feasibility of unfamiliar projects while not wasting time when it comes to familiar projects such as the import of manufacturing and raw materials. The President pledged to provide the investors in these projects with natural gas and electricity at much lower prices. The forum is organized by the Federation of Egyptian Industry, FEI, on the occasion of the 100th anniversary of the founding. The event is being attended by a large number of Egyptian, Arab, and foreign investors, representatives of relevant regional and international institutions, members of joint Arab chambers of commerce and industry, representatives of diplomatic missions in Egypt, businessmen, and the board of the FEI.
Right, welcome back. And delving into our discussion, let me first welcome our guest, Engineer Mohamed Azzam, board member of the International Association of Management and Technology. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you. Always pleasure being with you.
Pleasure is all ours. And if I may start with this first international industrial conference, the president that has been held under the auspices of the president. The aims, the importance, the timing of such an important conference.
Thank you for this question. I think this was very important event to shed light on building an industrial nation. Actually, we are witnessing a global crisis that started with COVID-19 and then the war in Ukraine, and this disrupted the whole ecosystem and showed that we need to have a sort of resilient and competitive economy. That's why part of the main pillar of having a resilient and competitive economy is to have a manufacturing ecosystem that is capable to deliver quality services and goods to the local market as well as to the international market. That's why Egypt now is focusing on articulating a strategy for having the manufacturing ecosystem or industrial ecosystem. We've seen a lot of projects are taking place in this regard when it comes to the pharmaceutical industry. We've seen Egypto Pharma industrial complex.
No names.
This is actually it's belongs to the government. Actually, it's a public sector initiative, and now we are witnessing having a supreme council for car manufacturer or automotive manufacturing.
Yes, indeed.
Sorry. And now we are including as a country also small and medium enterprises with the new initiative, what's called EBDA or START initiative, which is very important because 80% of the GDP worldwide coming from small and micro enterprises.
Indeed.
And this small and micro enterprises are also responsible for 80% of the employment worldwide. So what we are witnessing now in Egypt, that we are building an ecosystem that is in favor of small and micro enterprises or SMEs, and linking this kind of enterprises with more I would say bigger instrument within a cluster, to have a role within this cluster, to deliver their goods and services within an economic cluster. This is actually what's building most of the emerging economies worldwide. If we look at the Asian tigers in Asia, they did the same. Not only big companies, but also small and small and medium enterprises who are connected to the big companies within an economic cluster for having quality goods and services.
Indeed. All that in support of industry, the industrial sector at large. We're speaking here about industry in terms of big industries, and at the same time, as you respectively said here, the small and macro industries. The aim of starting or of supporting this sector, particularly at this very critical stage, and how it reflects, or it should be reflecting, on the economy at this particular time?
Again, if we need to have a competitive, resilient industry that leads to have a competitive and resilient economy, we need to build public policies. We've seen this public policies during the economic conference that took place almost a week ago, and through the...
What I meant here was, what is the main aim? What is the goal? What I mean here, economic-wise.
Economic-wise?
Because the president, for an instance, has spoken about the importance of increasing the exports in terms of decreasing the gap between our imports, which is very huge, towards or vis-a-vis the exports. And hence came the industrial sector. So how the industrial sector is supposed to be contributing to this overall vision?
Actually, without having an industrial sector, it would be very hard to realize this objective. If you'd like to have what's called abundant economy that is capable to fulfill the needs of the local market as well as the international market, we need to have a robust ecosystem for manufacturing. This will actually realize some goals and objectives, including employment, include decreasing imports and increasing exports. And this will reflect on the balance, on the trade balance, which means that you'll multiply your GDP, and then this will be reflected on the GDP per capita, which is the ultimate goal of any government. So what we are doing now, or Egypt doing now, is building a clear, resilient, competitive industrial sector that is capable to fulfill the local needs as well as have the potential to export their goods and services to the regional and international markets. And this would need also a lot of utilization of technology in this regards, because if we are looking for a competitive industrial sector, we need to implement the latest state-of-the-art concept related to the fourth industrial revolution as well.
Let's here divide this situation, okay?
Okay.
So we're speaking about technology, but first let me take from you this issue of building the base for competitiveness, because we thought that we need to build base for industry in order to be able to fulfill the needs, the domestic needs, particularly for preserving or protecting our foreign reserves.
Definitely.
And that is one big goal here. So what did you mean exactly by building the base of competitiveness?
Actually, competitiveness, you need to build something like a pyramid for this. The base of the pyramid, of course, is the public policy. And now Egypt is articulating public policy in favor of competitiveness. And this will need to have a robust ICT infrastructure. ICT infrastructure is becoming a fundamental aspect in any economy today.
Yes, indeed.
Especially, I think COVID showed us how important was having a robust ICT infrastructure for conducting businesses, for having working remotely, for having the government services remotely, for having the education remotely. So having a robust ICT sector or infrastructure is becoming really a fundamental aspect in any resilient and competitive economy. Then you need to invest in infrastructure that not only includes the transportation system, the logistics hubs, but also includes modern factories. It includes investment in R&D, because if you need to have a competitive edge over your competition, you need to utilize technology to the maximum to gain a gap between your products and services and your competition. And this only doable by investment in R&D, and part of IBDA initiative is focusing on building R&D facilities and investing in R&D for supporting the manufacturing sector. Then you need to have what's called clustering, or having a sort of economic clusters based on micro, small, medium enterprises connected to larger enterprises that serving each other, and having the opportunity to help this kind of small and micro enterprises to grow and even export their products and services, and having the ability to becoming a main supplier to the bigger industries.
Let me here take it, because I just want to simplify things so people would really understand, our audience, because our people are not very much into those terminologies. But we really need to simplify things. So we're speaking here about building the base for competitiveness. That would take us to another level,
Definitely.
leading us to compete worldwide.
Definitely.
Okay, so let me here ask you how to build this base in order to build on until we reach the head of the pyramid. How to start building this space?
Building this space actually is having policies and procedures and regulations, and now we can mention the golden license, which facilitates the investors, the local and international investors, to start their big businesses or start their own businesses, to have a sort of facilitation to get or attract more investors in the domain of industrial manufacturing. Then you need to have
which are being already implemented by the government according to the directives of the president to facilitate and give all the measures and procedures for people to facilitate.
Which is very important. Actually, this is one of the factors that most of the investors are looking for, to have an ecosystem that in favor of investment or in favor in building larger projects and facilitating.
You mean here conducive atmosphere for investments and for investors?
Definitely.
Okay. You mentioned here two important things that are or were already or we have seen them. We've seen them or the launching of them during this important conference, which is IBDA or START initiative. Which I guess is or have many aims and goals, and the golden license. So let me here take or please illustrate first on the initiative IBDA or START. What does it aim for? How does it help young entrepreneurs and also young and small businesses? What is the end result goal, and tell me all about this initiative, please.
For sure. IBDA initiative or START initiative is an initiative to help entrepreneurs, startups, small businesses to establish a line of business. This for the domestic market or for having a supply for the domestic market. The domestic market is a large market by itself. It's 100 million market, which is not small at all. And then becoming a feeding industry for other big manufacturing or industrial organization. So you will act as a supplier for the domestic market in different fields, in the field of textile, the field of food processing, and so on and so forth. And then also you will act as a feeder for larger industries. So you are connected dots here between
it's a chain.
It's a chain, actually. Typically it's a chain. That's why the cluster is an inclusive place that having all the ecosystem, having the all stakeholders working together in harmony to have more productive, more quality and price competitive products and services.
Indeed.
This is the main objective of the initiative. And then you connecting this with the supply chain as well. You need to have a smart self-thinking supply chain to have better utilization of your resources, making goods and services easier to be delivered to the citizens and businesses all over the country and even to the regional and international markets. So it's a value chain, actually. You are building a value chain from scratch to be more competitive, more accurate, more precious, more able to cope with the dynamics of the consumer needs and demands, to be more dynamic with the requirements of regional market, which is another large market, and to be able on a later stage to export your goods and services to the international market. And this is, of course, this is the ultimate goal for having such initiative to increase the export to $100 billion US.
Yes, indeed. And we need that. We definitely need that.
Definitely.
IBDA or START. It gives the sense of the leadership or the government telling young and small businessmen and even older businessmen just start.
Yes.
And we will help you.
Yes.
How is that? What kind of help or what is the government providing for those businessmen, young businessmen, entrepreneurs, startups, all people who want to have a project or to own a project of their own? How the government is helping them?
The ultimate goal of doing business is to create a paying customer. And now the government telling or giving a clear message that there are a room for a lot of consumer and customer in this regards, especially with the mega projects that are taking place all over Egypt, like Haya Karima, for example. Haya Karima, it's a 1 billion Egyptian pound project, and it's taking place all over all the governorates. So we'll need a lot of products and services within this project. And we have either importing these goods and services from abroad or building the capacity to produce these goods and services locally. And then we have the customer. The customer is already there. And the customer is always the big issue, and the customer is the most challenging aspect within any value chain. So the government now is providing the customer, which is the most important element within the value chain. And now the government are facilitating having loans and even going into partnership, as President Sisi said during the opening of the industrial conference. The government would facilitate having loans from banks at relaxed conditions, as well as having, even in the bigger projects, the government is willing to invest hand in hand up to 50% to give the confidence that the projects are there.
We are here, we're in support, we're in your back, just start.
We are serious about this. This is very important. This is an important message. We are not here to waste your time. We are here to build hand in hand an ecosystem that is resilient, is productive, has a sort of competitive edge, and will provide you with all support, the financial support, the R&D facilities, the technical support. And
what is the R&D facility?
R&D is research and development, that if you need to improve your products and services. And will give you, also will go co-finance your projects and will be your first customer. I think this is a perfect situation, an ecosystem to build a real
simply
industry.
We're in your back, not to push you on from the edge, but rather to raise you and give you leverage for work.
Working together, actually. The whole way, all together, hand in hand, as partners, as supporters, and even as your first customer, which is really a very important aspect.
When you look at any project, or when you choose a project that you are convinced with, I'm speaking here as a small businessman or a businessman who wants to start his business, I look into many factors that contribute to my success. So as you said, respectively, indeed, the financial or the capital, the market, because this is what gives me the ability to know if I will succeed or not,
Definitely.
or will gain or not, the labor, and the priority of the project for the country or for the state. All these are defining factors for anyone who wants to start his project. We have already spoken about the two first things, the capital and the market. How about the two others? Because we're speaking here about the labor, cannabis, and that indeed is a problem, and we are aware of that. The second one would be the priority, or setting the industries or the priority industries that we are in need. Please.
For the labor, I think it's always challenging because you need to have a continuous training and mentorship for the labor that you need. Because industries are changing and evolving due to the technology, due to the automation of everything almost. So we need a labor that is capable to deal with the new way of production. You need a labor that is capable to deal with sensors, deal with computers, deal with robots. And this is the only way to do so is to train. Continuous training, continuous on-job training, to have a specialized schools, and we are witnessing specialized schools now in the automotive industry, in electronics industry, in telecom industry, in handcrafts industry. So we are witnessing now a totally different set of educational institution that is capable to give the skills required by the industry itself. And also we have the technological colleges, which is totally connected to the industry, to the requirements, the real requirements of the industry. And this is a path that you can start it and then go to the job market. And if you need different skills, or you need extra or another set of skills, you go back and take a few years over there and go back to the market. So it's a new model. So this is the only way to supply qualified labor. That labor is understanding how to deal with the technological advancement when it comes to the production lines, and when it comes to the how to deal with the sophisticated logistics systems. And the other thing is helping the industry, not only with labor, with the scientific research that's coming to support your industry, specifically your industry. And we've seen now a joint programs between the academia and the industry in many fields, having a common, a sort of common projects, doing together for improving the quality of the products or services that I'm producing.
Indeed.
Which is very important if you need to compete on the local level, on the regional level, and international level.
Part of the competitive pyramid, right?
Yes, exactly.
Before we move on with our discussion here, let me take this second report and President Sisi meeting with Qatari businessmen in Egypt offering various investment opportunities. Let's watch.
President Abdel Fattah Sisi has stressed to representatives from the Qatari Businessmen Association, QBA, that Egypt is offering various promising investment opportunities via its ongoing mega projects nationwide. Foremost among these projects is the development of the Suez Canal zone, which includes a host of industrial and logistical areas. President Sisi's statements came during a meeting with the representatives from the Qatari Businessmen Association, QBA, in Cairo, on the sidelines of Egypt's first international forum and exhibition for industry. The president explained that this offers promising opportunities for Qatari companies seeking to benefit from Egypt's strategic location and the free trade agreements that link it with different continents and geographical regions. The meeting was second between the Egyptian president and Qatari businessmen. During the meeting, the president praised the positive developments in the economic and trade relations between the two brotherly countries. The president noted that Egypt is keen on promoting economic and trade ties with the Qatari businessmen, as well as reinforcing joint investments to support the development process in both countries. Faisal bin Qasim Al Thani, head of the QBA, stressed during the meeting the association's aspiration to explore the possibilities for maximizing cooperation with Egypt. He added that many fields and promising investment opportunities are available in Egypt, especially in the sectors of renewable energy, agriculture, industry, and mining. Furthermore, heads and representatives of Qatari companies affirmed their keenness to intensify cooperation with Egypt to achieve the common interests of both sides. The meeting was attended by Egyptian Prime Minister Mustafa Madbouli, Electricity Minister Mohamed Shakir, Petroleum Minister Tariq Al-Mulla, Planning and Economic Development Minister Hala Said, and Minister of Trade and Industry Ahmed Samir. President Sisi held his first meeting with Qatari businessmen in September during his first trip to Doha following Al-Ula Declaration. In the wake of the declaration, the two countries signed a number of bilateral deals to bolster economic ties and form the Egyptian-Qatari High Joint Committee, headed by the two foreign ministers in March. Also following talks between Egyptian and Qatari officials in Cairo in March, a Qatari package of $5 billion in investments and partnerships in Egypt was also announced. Egypt is seeking to attract local, Arab and international investors to increase the private sector's participation in public investments to 65%, up from 30% currently, to take advantage of the new state ownership policy that details the state's presence in certain sectors of the economy. According to the policy, which is set to be launched soon, the government will exit 15 economic activities across 7 sectors over the coming 3 years, including agriculture, water, sanitation, desalination, telecommunication and IT, retail, food and beverage, and construction. The government will also exit a number of activities across the leather, timber, engineering, jewelry, chemical, textile, printing, and pharmaceutical industries.
Right, welcome back. And back to you, Engineer Azzam. And as we were speaking, and we stopped at setting priorities or setting priority industries that the country is in need for. How do you view that?
From my humble opinion, I think we need to focus on what's called flagship industries. This would be the locomotive for the overall economic development, and of course would be the base of economic and social development eventually. I would say Egypt could play a very critical role in the global logistics industry, for example. Egypt could play a role in the high-tech domain because it's mainly based on brains. And your assets only a computer and high-speed internet. So the two industries that I would say we could play a really good part of within the global
But before
industry.
I go into opportunities here, what do you mean by flagship?
Flagship indices that will associate it with the name of Egypt. If you mention Egypt, then you will mention the tourism industry, for example. So we need to create more flagship indices that will be associated with the name of the country. So I think because of the Suez Canal, we could be associated and we could be a key global player in the area of logistics. Logistics is very important to any trade, to any economy, to any business. So with the Suez Canal and the location of Egypt, we could play...
Now, all these are opportunities, and we'll go to opportunities because there are enormous opportunities in Egypt. Tourism in itself is a big opportunity in Egypt, but let me ask you exactly what is the flagship industry? How is it formed? Who should be forming it, in which way?
As I said, we have tourism, we have logistics, we have high tech, and they are formed by having a national strategy. We need to articulate a very ambitious national strategy in this regard. So we need to aim high, we need to dream big, and implement this strategy in collaboration with the private sector. Private sector is always very agile, and always is capable to create more jobs, which is very important. And I think the economic forum that took place last week and the industrial forum that took place a couple of days ago proved the concept that Egypt, as the government of Egypt, the state of Egypt, is promoting the collaboration with the private sector to the maximum, to the great extent. So
actually, at the beginning of this year, the Prime Minister has spoken about increasing the share of the private sector into 65 and more.
Definitely, and it was very clear actually during the talks, the discussions, the speeches of His Excellency the President. So it's very clear Egypt, the government of Egypt, is very keen to cooperate and collaborate with the private sectors. Then we need...
And international partners. We've just seen here the President sitting with some with the Qatari Businessmen Association here, and definitely others.
Egypt is open for actually is opening door for all investors, from especially with the Arab states, and we've seen a lot of investment within Egypt coming from Saudi Arabia, coming from United Arab Emirates, and now President Sisi has met with the Qatari delegation. So Egypt is always it's a land of opportunity because of the size of the market. Actually, if you look at any international report, one of the major aspects that making Egypt an attractive market is the size of the market itself. The size of market of Egypt is not only dependent on the population here in Egypt, but also dependent on the free trade agreement that Egypt, part of it, with Africa, with the Middle East countries, with the Islamic chambers, within the Islamic chambers of commerce, within the Euro-Mediterranean, within the EU partnership. So we have a lot of free trade agreements that is capable to expand the market from 100 million to 2 billion actually. So Egypt is a great market. Egypt is a pathway to a lot of other markets within the region, within the continent. So this one thing. And then we need to invest in productive facilities, like state-of-the-art factories. We need to have state-of-the-art factories, because if you need to produce according to the international taste, because we are in an open competition with everyone. This is the 21st century economy, if we like it or not. This is the case. This is the fact. If you are competing globally. That's why in any industries that we are creating nowadays, or any ecosystem we are creating nowadays, we need to think what's called local global concept. Maybe I'm producing things for the local market, but having an eye that I'm going to go to the international market, so I need to go global as well from the beginning, starting from the design up to the production.
Here, I mean, just an important idea that came to my mind here. Sometimes they say that what we can see as bad could turn into opportunity. And what we are seeing here from the liberalization or the float of a dollar can actually be an opportunity for investments and industries. And if I speak about that, you said here it's a huge market, but also it is a very attractive market due to the prices, the neighborhoods, the energy. How do you view that? How are we attractive to international partners from every aspect, particularly at the backdrop of all the crises that are ongoing worldwide?
Thank you for this question. I think price is a very important element in producing goods and services, and price determines the ability to have more room to maneuver into the local and the regional and the international. So price is always a factor. So the devaluation would help you in being competitive from the price perspective. However, price is not the only factor. Price should be associated and coupled with quality.
But yes, indeed. What you said here is very right. What I meant here, how attractive are we for international partners? For instance, there is a crisis in Europe in energy. There is a crisis of the in employment, the high prices of laborhood, of energy, of the situation, the developments itself, and you have a country with low prices in energy. The difference in the currency is in itself giving a privilege from that perspective. So how is that making us attractive for countries with big industries to come and invest here? This is, if I clarified what I meant here.
You need to provide, I would say, a collective package of incentives. This not only the price. Price is one factor, but you need to have infrastructure, manufacturing infrastructure ready for the investor to come and to be plug and play. You need to have energy that's stable and the price is more competitive rather than the other places, and I think we are doing a very good job in the area of energy. You need to have a framework that in favor of investor, to facilitate things for investor, to have tax and non-tax incentives. You need to have a sort of facilities that training more qualified labor.
An integral plan.
Definitely.
An integral plan for
integrated, connected, and inclusive, that you are not missing any part of it. And this is what attracts investor to a country with a great potential like Egypt.
I have 3 minutes.
Sure.
This is all what they told me left for me here, and I need from you just to explain opportunities Egypt have for investors.
The huge opportunities actually when it comes to the green energy, when it comes to logistics, when it comes to high tech. I think we are there. And tourism, of course. This is a very old industry here in Egypt. And so we have, I think, again, back to the flagships, tourism, high tech, energy, and logistics. And we have privilege. We are privileged actually for the location, for the quality of mines in the area of high tech, for the great projects that took place over the last 7-8 years in the area of energy, that now we are very attractive energy supplier for the neighborhood, for even Europe, and we have surplus of energy that could be utilized in attracting more industrial partners to come and work here in Egypt.
And resources, by the way.
Definitely.
Too many resources.
Definitely.
We've just seen the inauguration of the black sand a few days ago, and also before we've been speaking about the white sand and
the black sand and white sand
do you
factory.
even imagine very small things that Egypt have, and they are enormously important for it.
They are seeds for the black, the minerals coming out from black sand are the basic elements in the most sophisticated industrial application that you can imagine, including the alloys for aircrafts, including the elements that we need for the semiconductors. So we have a lot of resources, and now is the time to grab this opportunity actually to build a real industrial nation that could increase our competitiveness and definitely will increase our GDP, and definitely then will increase the GDP per capita, which is the ultimate goal for the government of Egypt.
Indeed. Then that's exactly what we need to do at this upcoming stage. However, my time is out and I have to end it here. So Engineer Mohamed Azzam, board member of the International Association of Management and Technology, we thank you so much for being with us tonight.
Thank you. It's always a pleasure and an honor.
The pleasure is all ours, and dear viewers, many thanks for watching. Tomorrow will be another important debate with another colleague. Good night.